Chapter 1, The House in the Shad. In the heart of Washington, D.C., amid the bustling streets and the echoes of history, there stood an unassuming house nestled between grand old oak trees. Built in the early 1800s, its once vibrant facade had faded, revealing layers of gray and peeling paint. The gardens were overgrown, tangled weeds twisting around cracked stone pathways, but for all its weariness, the house exuded an aura of intrigue and nostalgia, a relic clinging stubbornly to its past. The Johnson family resided there, a typical ensemble of society. David, a lawyer who frequented the Capitol, and his wife, Clara, an artist who found inspiration in the town's diverse landscapes. They had two children, both spirited and bright, Thomas, the introspective son, and his sister, Eliza, whose laughter could fill any empty space. When I first arrived, drawn by stories of this curious household, the air was thick with history, the scent of musty wood and neglected corners pervading the atmosphere. It was said that the previous owners had left peculiar belongings behind, an odd assortment of furniture, decaying books, and something far more haunting, a large, ornately framed mirror in the basement. Rumor had it that anyone who gazed into it felt a chill rush down their spine, as though the glass had the ability to reflect more than mere appearances. Clara's laughter often filled the main rooms, but I noticed moments of tension nestled beneath the surface. The children were rarely allowed to play outside, kept within the dusty confines of their home by a mother who seemed to possess a protective instinct bordering on paranoia. They would sometimes peer from behind the curtains, watching the world pass by but rarely participating. It was unsettling, yet somehow not unusual for families of influence to shield their children from the chaos of the outside world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, framing the house in shadows, I found myself drawn toward the basement, a place described with trepidation by the townsfolk. As I crossed the threshold, the air grew colder, saturated with a dampness that clung to the walls like a shameful secret. The mirror loomed before me, its intricate frame adorned with whimsical designs that felt both inviting and foreboding. I hesitated, breath caught in my throat as I peered into its depths. Rather than seeing my own reflection, I felt as though I was gazing into another realm, a distorted, twisted version of the world I knew. Unseen shades flitted around the edges of the glass, beckoning while simultaneously inducing dread. Just as I turned to leave, a rustling sound drew my attention. A scrap of parchment lay crumpled beneath a discarded box. Dusting it off, I unfolded the fragile paper, revealing a letter addressed to me. The elegant cursive spiraled across the page. To the one who seeks the truth, do not take those you cherish for granted, for shadows linger closer than you think. A chill rippled through me as if the very walls of the house whispered secrets of their past. Chapter 2, Echoes of Disturbance. Days turned into weeks as the quaint atmosphere of the Johnson household began to unravel. Little whispers of uneasiness dripped from the townsfolk's conversations like rain on cracked pavement. Clara, with her ever-bright smile, seemed to conceal the tremors of a brewing storm within her. The children were often seen in the garden, but their laughter rang hollow, chased away by the heavier clouds of their mother's growing anxiety. Thomas became withdrawn, his eyes shadows of what they once were. He would sit for hours fiddling with the chapel's old music box, the sound of its haunting melody playing in the corners of my mind long after I had left the house. Eliza, on the other hand, grew more vibrant, but as if her laughter was a way of masking something deeper. Each day, Clara would instruct them to steer clear of the basement, voicing her objections with an intensity that left everyone on edge. "We don't go down there," she would say, her voice sharp as broken glass. "You wouldn't understand the danger it holds." The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones about the previous owners and their tragic fate, a family that had mysteriously vanished without a trace. Many believed the tale to be mere fiction, an urban legend meant to protect children from the unknown. My curiosity, coupled with a growing sense of dread, propelled me toward the basement once more. The mirror, as if taunted by my unease, stared back at me with unsettling authority. I brought a flashlight to better illuminate its depths. A flicker revealed a sigil carved into the wood below the glass, a cryptic design intertwined with florals. I felt a strong pull toward it, as if the symbol called out for recognition. Yet, the moment I leaned closer, I was met with the cold realization that I was in deeper than I had anticipated. Just then, the heavy echo of footsteps sounded upstairs, a real-life shadow pulling me back from the abyss. I quickly straightened and, clutching the letter to my chest, returned upstairs. Clara sat in the parlor, her hands shaking as she clutched a steaming cup of tea, eyes darting toward the door with a pleading fervor. A sudden crash shattered the calm, the children's laughter turning to frantic screams just moments later. As I dashed toward the source of the commotion, Clara followed close behind. The hallway echoed with echoed cries, a tangled web of panic and desperation that engulfed the household. Chapter 3, The Unraveling. In the days following the incident, the atmosphere in the Johnson home shifted dramatically, as though dread had seeped into the very bones of the house. Thomas had fallen ill following the accident, a fever gripping his small frame. Clara became a whirlwind of anxiety, moving from room to room, her footsteps heavy with the weight of concern. Meanwhile, Eliza's laughter faded into silence, her vibrant spirit replaced by a quiet shadow. We gathered in the parlor one rainy afternoon, the rhythmic patter of raindrops weaving a somber tune. It was then that I could no longer ignore the swirling chaos enveloping this familial unit. Over tea, I broached the subject of the mirror, now tinged with a new urgency. "Clara," I began, careful not to tread too heavily on her senses, "what's really down there? Why are you so protective of the basement?" A flicker of something passed through her eyes, a shadow of fear quickly masked by resolve. "You must understand, David, the house has a history, a truth." The trembling of her hands spoke volumes as she shared tales of a family that preceded them, whispers of dark rituals and unexplainable phenomena. Neighbors had spoken of odd occurrences, the flickering lights, the scattered belongings, strange noises echoing through the lonely night. They believed they could conjure spirits, Clara explained, her voice strained. As her revelation filled the room, a cold breeze swept through the hall, causing the curtains to dance with an unseen force. "I never wanted to be a part of this. The mirror, it's merely a reflection of what lies beneath." That evening, I ventured once more into the depths of the basement, each step weighted with hesitation, memories of Clara's anxious warnings echoing through my mind. Alone, the mirror stood like an altar to some forgotten worship, illuminated by a single candle that flickered in the shadows. The sigil glowed faintly beneath the waxen light, a sensation washing over me, a summons to uncover the truth. I stepped closer, emboldened by the echoes of Clara's confession. Leaning against the cool surface, I dared to glance into its depths once more. Yet what I saw paralyzed me with terror. Reflections of Thomas and Eliza played upon the surface, yet they appeared older, faces twisted in anguish, mouths moving but no sound escaping. Suddenly, a voice whispered from within, "Help us." Panic flooded my veins as I stumbled back. I fled the basement, the shadows chasing me into the safety of the living space. Could the mirror hold the key to what I had unearthed, an unholy tether connecting the past with the present? Chapter 4: The Resolution and the Legacy. Days transformed into an anguishing blur, the children's well-being deteriorating as Clara spiraled into despair. My own research revealed a tangled web of family trees, dredging up past owners' names, and each query seemed to lead back to the infernal events tied to the basement mirror. The more I unraveled, the more I realized how each piece of history was woven closely together, laden with tragedy. Finally, I could endure no longer. The town, through rumor and whispers, had gathered in the parlor to hear my findings. Clara, worn down yet resolute, listened with darkened eyes as I recounted the history of the children who had come before, the echoes of spirits who had been lost, forgotten, and trapped within the glass. "Your family inherited more than a house," I said, hushed voices softening with uncertainty. "It has drawn you in, using your love for each other against you." Clara's strength rekindled at my words. We had the power to confront the shadows, to exorcise the darkness that had enslaved her children. The community banded together in support, standing around the mirror that now felt like an ominous sentinel against the backdrop of history. As the ritual unfolded, candles flickering like stars, the air crackled with mystical energy. Clara held her children close, the warmth of their bond igniting a spark amid swirling shadows. I too, determined to stand firm, read the letter aloud, no longer a whisperer but a beacon calling forth the lost. "Do not take those you cherish for granted." The chilling warning resonated, while the mirror's surface rippled violently like the ocean in turmoil. As the final words rang through the room, there was a blinding flash, shards of reflective glass shattered, scattering pieces like lost dreams upon the floor. The weight of the house seemed to lift as though a great burden had been cast aside, and for the first time in years, daylight streamed into the basement, illuminating the remnants of what once held so much fear. As we emerged, the world outside felt more vibrant, alive with the promise of renewal. Clara's eyes sparkled with renewed hope, her children's laughter finally resounding with joy instead of echoes of anguish. That day became a testament to memories reclaimed. To this day, the house stands proudly on its corner, a reminder not only of darkness but of resilience, a legacy of courage and the unbreakable bonds of love. It whispers now of the history it once held, always reminding us to cherish those we hold dear. The once macabre portrait that echoed through the ages transformed into a beautiful memory, and I understood at last the truth within the letter's call. And so I learned that the shadows lurking in mirrors can only reflect what is already present. We must remain vigilant and cherish the light in our lives. Chapter 5 The Aftermath and the Vigil. In the weeks following the ritual, the Johnson household transformed into a place of healing. Clara embraced her children with unyielding warmth, each hug a balm for the wounds that had festered too long in the shadows. The basement, once a sanctuary of secrets, became a shared space for laughter and creation. Clara began to sketch again, capturing the spirit of the children through woodlands and streams, and laughter returned to the garden, fluttering like butterflies in the spring. Yet the specter of what had transpired still lingered in the corners, a tender reminder that the house had been a vessel of sorrow. Mending the cracks in their lives wasn't merely a matter of forgetting, it would require acknowledging the echoes that had haunted them. Late at night, I would sometimes catch the glint of moonlight reflecting off the glass remnants of the shattered mirror, shards encased with careful reverence. They became part of our ritual, pieces of memory transformed into art displayed across the wall, a conversation starter over evening meals. Neighbors, drawn by curiously woven tales of revival, began to visit. They brought baked goods, embraced Clara with warmth, and shared their own stories of loss and revival, breaking down the walls that once separated them. It forged a new tapestry within that once silent house, threads of compassion weaving through the fabric of an old pain, the scent of fresh-baked bread mingling with memories of old dread. But beyond the laughter and light, shadows still clung too closely. Whispers were shared among some, tales of other homes that experienced disquieting occurrences, a girl from down the block who spoke in shudders, claiming to hear voices in the night. A neighbor, long since withdrawn, had discovered an old, ornate box in their attic, one that mirrored the horrors we'd faced. These stories hung heavy in the air, reminders that darkness often lingered just outside the light's embrace. Swept up in a mix of hope and lingering dread, Clara decided the community needed to confront those shadows head-on. She took to the church hall, every corner bustling with energy as she called for an informative gathering on recognizing signs of distress hidden within their children. "We must share what we've learned," she said, her voice strong. "We can't forget the whispers or they may return." At that gathering, I stood alongside her, recounting our journey. The warmth of camaraderie enveloped us as stories poured forth, vulnerably shared by parents who, like Clara, had once felt helpless. They spoke of odd occurrences, behavioral shifts that felt unsettling yet were often ignored. I could see in their eyes that they were grappling with something deeper, a shared anxiety that bonded their souls. And so it went, one gathering spilled into another, a framework of support began to emerge. A network formed, parents attuned to one another, dedicated to illuminating the shadows that lingered in their children's lives. They sang at the church, laughter echoing against the old stone walls, enveloping the once lonely streets in a warmth they had long forgot. Still, thoughts of the mirror lingered in my own mind. Although it had been destroyed, the markings of its past were etched in my memory. I occasionally found myself drawn back to the basement, now a workshop filled with art supplies, sketches, and laughter. Each time I held a shard in my hand, I felt the reminder of their past but also the hope of their present, a connection to every child who had struggled against darkness. One evening, as the crescent moon illuminated the garden, I ventured downstairs, intent on exploring the remnants of glass that lay scattered like scattered stars. Clara joined me, her presence soothing the tendrils of nostalgia that clung to my thoughts. "It's nice to see the old pieces again," she said, her fingers delicately tracing the edges. "They're reminders of our strength," I replied, observing as the moonlight caught the shards, creating a mosaic of light and shadow on the walls. "Every piece tells a story, and together they form the tapestry of who we have become." Together, we sat among the detached remains of our troubled past, contemplating the journey that had transformed fear into courage. Clara took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting the moon's soft glow. "It feels like part of them is still here, guiding us through." In that moment, I realized this was no longer merely about a family against the darkness, but a community knitted together through shared experiences, a patchwork of healing, all on the fringes of fear yet buoyed by knowledge. Clara, her spirit reignited through each stroke of her brush, and I, determined to ensure that the shadows would not encroach upon our lives again. Chapter 6 A Legacy of Light. As the years passed, the Johnson household became a beacon in our community, a place where shadows no longer sought refuge. Clara's determined spirit found expression in a beautiful gallery in town, showcasing not only her art but the stories of other families, of those who had experienced darkness and emerged anew. It was a sanctuary of creativity and resilience, a testament to the strength of those who dared to confront their fears. Thomas and Eliza thrived, their laughter echoing not just within the walls of their home but resonating through the neighborhood where other children would join them. The skepticism that once lulled them into quiet despair transformed into waves of understanding. They became advocates, speaking openly about emotions and struggles, an open dialogue that had once been silenced. With Clara at the helm, the community organized events dedicated to mental health and well-being. Monthly gatherings transformed into workshops. Families shared their challenges, expressed fears often left unspoken, providing solace to each other with unwavering support. The vulnerable yet powerful act of sharing created invisible bridges, knitting connections between neighbors who once walked solitary paths. Every child grew to understand the importance of their voice, their laughter echoed not just for the sake of joy but as an anthem against the shadows. Homes began to radiate warmth and laughter, replacing the echoes of fear with triumphant energy. It became a shared mission, illuminating the darkness that loomed outside. Yet as days passed, the mirror's legacy still resonated. Clara insisted on preserving one shard, encased in a wooden box detailed with carvings of flowers intertwining with flourishing vines, symbols of resilience and renewal. This piece hung in her gallery as a reminder, a conversation starter that spoke of strength. One day, as I savored the community's growth, I wandered into Clara's gallery where Eliza was showcasing her latest work. It was a series of portraits depicting their friends, each adorned with vivid colors, smiles glowing through the canvas. Eliza had claimed her fear as her muse, channeling its energy into powerful depictions, strength born from vulnerability. The children surrounded their mother with fascination, their laughter swelling with each new brushstroke she completed. They understood the significance of transformation, that beauty could emerge from hardship. In those moments, I marveled at the evolution within, knowing that while the past would never be entirely forgotten, it would guide them toward a more vibrant future. Later that evening, as I stood outside, the laughter mingled with the chill of dusk. I thought of the journeys we had all undertaken, the pain interwoven with threads of triumph that had shaped the fabric of our community. The moon hung high above, its light a reminder that even shadows could not withstand its brilliance. Tonight, as Clara's laughter pulled me back into the warmth of home, I remembered the letter that had been addressed to me, a warning imbued with wisdom. It had brought clarity, crafting a pathlet by shared experiences, a journey toward liberation. It became clear that we are sometimes called to confront both the great and the terrible, to emerge wiser, more resilient, bathed in the light of understanding. And within that illumination, echoes of the past still rippled forth, prices paid and lessons learned. Tragedies turned into treasures forged through perseverance, whispers transformed into wisdom passed down like a familial heirloom. In our story we found not terror but the profound beauty of connection, stitched together against the fabric of silence, a portrait of communal resilience, shadows blending only to reveal the brilliance of light that had triumphed. Chapter 7, A New Dawn. As the seasons changed, the gallery flourished, its walls alive with colors and emotions. The Johnson family, having once endured shadows and silence, now basked in the warmth of connection, their lives intertwined with those of their community. Clara organized seasonal exhibitions, welcoming families to share their stories and art, each gathering a celebration of resilience and renewal. They became a beacon of hope, drawing visitors from neighboring towns, eager to witness the transformative journey that had unfolded within the once haunted walls. During those brisk autumn evenings, I often found myself drawn to the gallery, enveloped in camaraderie and shared experiences. Art workshops burst with energy, children sculpted their dreams from clay while parents explored the catharsis of expression. Laughter rang like melodic chimes, mingling with the scent of fresh paint and varnish. It had become a sanctuary, a space where fear held no dominion, replaced instead by a tapestry woven from the threads of healing. One evening, after a particularly rousing gathering, Clara and I sat outside, the glow of lanterns casting shimmering patterns on the ground. The autumn breeze whispered secrets of change, rustling the leaves in a gentle dance. "Do you ever think about what lies ahead?" Clara asked, her tone reflecting a mix of hope and caution. "Every day," I confessed, letting my gaze travel up to the stars. "We've come so far, yet the past always lingers. What we've built here is precious, but we must remain vigilant." She nodded, recognizing the weight of that truth. "I want our children to understand that their voices are powerful. They've grown amidst fear, but we've turned that into strength. I want them to feel safe sharing their thoughts, their worries, everything." As autumn yielded to the chill of winter, Clara initiated a new project. She called upon the stories of their ancestors, crafting a gallery dedicated to the past and the spirits interwoven in the fabric of their lives. We're not just living, we're learning from those before us, she explained, her eyes sparkling with inspiration. We must remember the tragedies but ensure they guide us toward understanding. The project blossomed, honoring both the lost and the living, weaving each family's history into the greater narrative of their community. As each piece of art took shape, it became a cherished reminder of resilience. Every stroke of paint and every brush of charcoal, every careful carving of wood breathed life into the stories once silenced. With the arrival of the first snow, the gallery represented a warmth standing against the chill that clung to the air. Clara, Thomas, and Eliza embarked on field trips to gather tales from neighbors, interviewing elderly residents and collecting memories bound tightly in the pages of their lives. Those afternoons were filled with stories that resonated well beyond mere recollection. They were woven with emotions, the joy of celebration, the weight of loss, and the magic of survival. As winter turned to spring, the exhibition opened with community blessings. Families gathered to witness the culmination of their collaboration. Paintings, sculptures, and stories adorned the walls, each telling a tale deeply rooted in love and strength. The opening felt electric, vibrantly alive with anticipation and connection. "Let these stories be a guide," Clara said to the gathering crowd. "May they remind us of what we've faced and how we've transformed together. When shadows encroach upon us, may we remember to reach for the light." Applause erupted, but it was not just in honor of the art. It resonated as a collective acknowledgement that they had all been participants in this grand narrative of survival. Even the lingering echoes of the past felt like shadows retreating into a distant corner, unable to disrupt the brilliance of newfound hope. That night, as I walked home under a star-studded sky, I felt renewed conviction. The shadows that had once threatened to consume the Johnson family were now threads of history intricately woven into the fabric of community life. I reflected on the journey brought forth from fear and darkness, transformed into an embrace of connection, strength, and resilience, a reminder that even in moments of despair, there is the potential for profound rebirth. Chapter 8: The Lasting Legacy. As the years drifted into the horizon, the Johnson Gallery thrived, transcending its original purpose. It transformed into an institution for healing, inviting everyone, artists, storytellers, and those in need of solace, to share their journeys. Clara guided workshops designed to explore emotions, encouraging children and adults alike to articulate their feelings through paint, clay, and conversation. Within those walls, the community flourished, and the teachings of vulnerability became an intrinsic part of everyday life. The stories exchanged during those workshops fostered understanding and solidarity. Neighbors who had once concealed their struggles began to discover strength and transparency. It was as if the gallery had become a lighthouse beckoning to a world of expression, illuminating the path for those lost in the fog. Thomas and Eliza blossomed, empowered and emboldened by the energy around them. Eliza, herself now an accomplished artist, began to explore deeper themes, captivated by the stories of resilience that swirled through her family's legacy. She painted tales rich with the trials of human experience, each canvas a celebration of those who had reclaimed their voices. Thomas, with his profound understanding of music, created melodies that transcended language. Inspired by his sister's artwork, he composed soundscapes reflecting the emotions encapsulated within each piece, a harmony resonating with the heartbeat of their community, echoing the message that it was okay to feel, to share, and to heal. On an ordinary spring day, the gallery was abuzz with the scent of fresh flowers, a new exhibition dedicated to environmental care, a movement birthed from the community's shared connection to their surroundings, seen in the emerging artwork and heartfelt narratives. As they curated the display, a sense of purpose intertwined with pride enveloped the gathering. During that exhibition, Clara received a letter from a family across the state, one that had unearthed their own history of strife. They wrote of how the Johnson Gallery inspired them to confront their shadows, sharing vet tales of resilience that left tears in my eyes. "It's remarkable," Clara mused as she read the letter aloud, "how our stories can travel across distances, finding connection in truths we once feared." The gallery had become a near-mythical place, a destination not only for artistry but for transformation, transcending beyond a mere collective of individuals into a nurturing community, a tapestry of vibrant threads woven together. And then one evening, beneath a canopy of stars, Clara turned to me with a thoughtful brilliance in her eyes. "Do you remember that first letter, the one that warned us of shadows?" I nodded, the memory surfacing vividly, the caution urging vigilance, a message that had united us. "It seemed like a burden then," I replied, "but now I see it as an invitation." She smiled, reflecting on the journey, an invitation to remember the past is not separate but interwoven with the present, and the way we honor that is through our stories. As the community continued to grow, so did our understanding that healing and connection were lifelong journeys, a truth echoed in each laugh shared, every tear wiped away, and every discovery embraced. It became known that shadows could not obliterate the light within. Instead, they served as reminders of the stark contrasts of life, how pain could catalyze purpose. Thus, the legacy of the Johnson family became part of the very fabric of our community, a testament to the profound truth that while shadows might still linger, the brilliance of shared stories would continue to illuminate paths, build bridges, and heal hearts. And as I wandered home that evening, I realized that the journey we had undertaken was not just a personal odyssey. It formed an eternal narrative imbued with hope, woven through connections beyond time and space, reminding us all that light once ignited could never truly extinguish. The warmth of community and shared experience embraced me fully as I stepped into the night, each breath invigorated by the echo of laughter and the promise of healing. The stories woven into the fabric of our lives would endure, a tapestry continuously unfurling, illuminating the paths ahead for generations to come. As the moon cast gentle light upon the streets of our beloved town, I reflected on how far we had journeyed, from the whispers of fear in the shadows to the vibrant chorus of voices now rising in harmony. Every family, every child had the power to share their truths, weaving their legacies into the ongoing narrative. The Johnson Gallery, now a cornerstone of our lives, stood resilient against the night, each window glowing with stories waiting to be told. It was more than just a collection of art. It had become a living testament to the power of connection, love, and courage. And so, I held on to the knowledge that while the past would always be a part of us, it no longer defined our trajectory. With each story shared, we built bridges, reaching out into the light, transforming the shadows into an inseparable part of our journey toward an ever brighter dawn.